All right, you groovy grasshoppers. It's Monday morning. We just couldn't wait to get going. I know it's not 11 o'clock yet, but when the deer herder gets here, like it just, I can't wait to hear the stories why he is the deer hunter. So let's get right at it here. You've told me behind the scenes, why are you called the deer hunter today? Oh, great, Mr. Putton Vic.
Deer herder.
Herder, sorry.
Yeah, not
hunter.
So Tony Santini, that's my friend. He's the deer hunter. You got to come and share the deer here. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
So this morning I'm on the field training, dude, and I'm talking about the artificial fields. Got like a couple soccer fields, a couple baseball fields, and I'm training this dude, and all of a sudden, two deer walk right by. Like I don't know how they got on the field.
Right.
I mean, usually, you can see them around there in the woods and stuff, but and the one deer went up to the fence and went right over, and the other guy was kind of trying to do the math on it, and he didn't think he could do it, and he approached it. And I was afraid he was going to get hung up halfway. Yeah. So further down the field, the soccer coach opened up the gate, to the, and so I kind of herded him over there. So that's my good act for the day.
That's good. That is good. Yep, deer. So that's the good and the bad with deer. Like they get used to being around people, and now they get themselves in a jam because they should be running away. But
the problem is the ticks and everything from them.
Big stuff in the news. Or first of all, I know we talked about this before, but man, when I went through that like 2 weeks of like having do I feel good now? It's like all the bad stuff's out of me and.
The Hershey Squirts cleanse.
Oh man! Oh yeah, Hershey Squirts. I didn't know so much water can come out of my ass. That was like, man, Niagara Falls. I was gonna get it.
It's good to be by falls. It releases those negative ions I talked about.
Yeah, that's right. Barry, Rod Jameson, how are you doing? You magical creature up there in Buffalo, New York. And then Barry Shelley. Barry is on the road. Let's see where Barry is. Man, how can Cooperstown, New York, survive without Barry?
Yeah.
I think
they just shut it down for the night.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah.
Or do you think he's just standing out on the road? Like
I don't. Well, look, it's his town up there. Cooperstown is Barry Shelley.
Yeah. Right. So he can go on any road he wants, right? He just stands out there. Hey, Barry, how you going? It's like, how about the catching this guy in the Gilgo Beach murders? Wow.
Yeah, and so when I first heard it, I was like, "What beach was that? What's it called?"
I know. Yeah.
But apparently they've been saying quite often that there's probably more connected to him.
Yeah, I heard that in the news today. Yeah. Huh. And so more murderers as well as
because he was just recently, I was reading the paper before on some kind of chat with some woman, and he was like playing like, "Oh, did you hear about that? There's like 10 people missing."
Oh.
So he's pretty much, I mean, that to me is that admission that he's buried at least 10 people there.
Right. So he did it, and then somebody else kind of copied him. And
no, it's all him.
Oh.
So what they're inferring is when he was having this like chat with her or whatever, he was kind of picking her brain. Hey, have you heard about the Gilgo Beach murders? And she's like, yeah, I kind of live there. And he said, yeah, they found like 10 bodies.
Oh.
But he's only been charged with 4 so far.
Oh,
but they're collecting when they went through his house all kinds of DNA, and he was a pretty bad dude. I mean, he was also, ironically enough, or crazy enough, because he's obviously a psychopath, sociopath at the very least. But obviously, he would wait in his neighborhood or anywhere, a car doing like 5 miles an hour. He'd walk into it, fall down, and go, "Oh, you owe me $5 million."
Wow.
Yeah, he had multiple lawsuits for this kind of thing. So he was calling with burner phones like relatives of the women that were missing and kind of busting their chops and being weird with them.
Wow.
So he was really super evil.
Were they all prostitutes as well? Like some of them were prostitutes.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, but
doesn't matter. But
I think they were, as we like to say now, sex workers, whatever.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's just awful.
Wow. So I mean, obviously, we don't know the answer right now. We may never know the answer. But what's going on in his head, right?
Well, it's got to me. I mean, actually, we were talking about this last night. It's a mental illness. I mean, you got to be completely out of your mind.
But we've learned too, like with mental health, there may be something that happened to him in the past too that made him.
Yeah, generally speaking, there may be. I don't know much about it, but what I've read and what I've watched on whatever, there is a pattern in early childhood. If kids are bedwetters, and also, I mean, that's kind of one, but a big one is if they set fires at an early age, and if they torture animals. Those are 3, for whatever reason, indicators of potential serial killer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I shouldn't know this much. It's kind of scary. So like in the back of my car, a while back, I had in my Jeep, I had a cinder block because I would use it to train with, right?
Right.
And I had rope because we would hang it and do a rope drill for boxing, right?
Sure.
And then I had a tarp because I was going to do some painting.
You're a mass murderer.
Yeah, one of my buddies in law enforcement goes, "What are you, a serial killer? What are you doing?" Put the body in the tarp and wrap the rope around it with a cinder block and toss it in the pond. Man.
Wow.
But yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how that all went down too, right? Like, so was like 10 years ago the murders happened, right?
Yeah. So it's one of the things that they also have found that sometimes they'll do a whole bunch of murders and they may wait 10 years and start up again for whatever reason.
Right.
I think BTK was one of those guys, the one that was out in like Iowa or Idaho or something. He broke off and then he started up again after 10 years. Yeah.
And then with the police, I mean, you can give them a lot of credit, right? I mean, they didn't quit on it, right?
No, I think so they got the DNA from the pizza box because his DNA wasn't in the system, or they would have got him a while back because he hadn't been convicted of anything. But somehow with the phone too, he had burner phones that he would use. Right. Somehow they tracked that. I don't know entirely how they did it, but he had been on the radar apparently for a bit of time.
Oh,
and then they got the DNA off the pizza box. So
the DNA off the pizza box recently they did this, or is this an old?
And it matched up to DNA that was found.
Oh,
I think there was some hair as well on some of the victims, and that's why now probably most likely there'll be more conclusive, kind of conclusion to this as best you can, because now they have DNA of those other unfortunate victims.
Right. Wow! Remember in the news they used to have. I think it's the nightly news. They'd always have missing child. Like they have every day. There's a different child missing. Yeah. Like what happened to all these kids, right?
So there's a movie out now. It's called Sound of Freedom. I haven't seen it, but I really need to see it. I suggest everybody try to see it. It deals with a true story about the sex trafficking of children.
Wow.
And we could either stick our head in the sand and make believe it doesn't exist, or we could really acknowledge it, because we acknowledge everything else in this life.
Yeah.
Climate change, this change, and equity. How about this? Why don't we look at this? And it's hard to believe it's not real, especially the fact that there's documented evidence of it.
Right.
But for some reason, I guess because it's such a horrific thought.
Right. We don't want to
deny. Yeah. I think that for me, that's a big part of it. But you have to say, you know what? It's a real thing.
Yeah, I know. I told you I went up to Marquette, Michigan, where I went to college, and they had a alternative high school, and the teacher was telling me after I made a presentation there, the two girls had been sold into obviously they got out of it, but they've been sold into the sex trafficking. Right. One girl, her mother sold her into the sex trafficking. Yeah, and then it was a really great kiss. And you could tell we went for dinner that night, teachers and some of the selected students, and you could tell they're really, searching out for help, like like a hero almost. In fact, it's kind of touching. This one young girl that spends time with her dinner, and she wrote in her Instagram that I was her hero, and I was like, oh my god, it's like, because she'd been through so much stuff up there. I think she was looking for a hero. So
well, it's okay.
Yeah, sad stuff. But you're right though, man. Like even like child abuse.
Yeah.
Like again, we dealt with it. Like go through the Sheldon Kennedy stuff for me, and you dealt with stuff. And like we know it's there. Like we don't want to face it though, right?
Yeah. And I think it's because it's so repulsive that we try to look away from it. But I think this movie in particular is opening up the eyes of a lot of people who, when they see it, they realize, no, this is real, this is horrific, and something needs to be done. I don't know what it is, because it's so, how do you prevent it? I don't know. But
I know. It's maybe, I think it's us being more aware too, right? Isn't that part of the... Right, yeah. Like the predators get away with it because they know that, okay, this particular kid's got nobody around him, nobody's paying attention, so I can now prey on this kid.
Yeah, they hide for most part, they hide in plain sight.
Right.
And then there's cartel. I mean, there's professionals that this is what they do. I mean, this is their business. As sick as that sounds, it's a fact. Yeah.
Well, I've talked about with Sheldon Kennedy with his abuser, that Graham James, who's the people admire. He won Coach of the Year in the Canadian Hockey League one year. People admired him for what he was doing, but he was brilliant in a sick way. He knew exactly what he was doing, who to pick on, everything.
Yeah, I mean, so there's two really different types of this. The predators, like that coach, I forgot his name, or the
Graham James.
Graham James,
yep.
And then the agent too. It was another guy, but they're predators. They're looking to abuse. when you start talking about the trafficking, the business end of it, that's where it really gets. I mean, it's all horrible and disgusting. It needs to end, but that's where I think people really need to find out more and be more aware of what's going on, because it is a business. It is international, and kids disappear, and it's just unfathomable.
Oh God, still drives me nuts. I go someplace in public, and parents like a grocery store, and they leave their kids in the cart, even if you're walking 20 feet away. It's just.
Sean was like maybe 2-ish,
right?
And the town has this big, annual July 4th, like. It's a carnival with rides for the kids, and then later at night, the fireworks. Right? And there were probably a few thousand people there. I turned my head for a minute. My ex-wife turned her head for a moment, and he was gone.
Really?
And I aged like your heart just. Man. And fortunately, there was a lot of my friends were there that knew Sean, so everybody kind of fanned out. We found him. He was way on the other side of the field where the rides were.
Right, but just wandered away.
Yeah, that's how fast he just boogied. Oh. And the scary part of it is he could have been snatched easily by just not paying attention for a split second, especially in a big crowd. I mean, guy can grab a kid and just go. Ooh. So, and now with AI, with every, to this point, I was watching something this morning that somebody put up about really. I know we want to do it, but we really need to be careful with social media and pumping out pictures of our kids and activities. Oh. Because the bad guys can ping them really easy, and it's a double-edged sword. We all want to share our lives about our kids and everything, but it's a little bit risky too. So be very careful with it.
I know that's true. Yeah, you don't. It's one of those things like, oh, geez, I should have thought of that. Well, it's out there. We know it's out there.
Yeah, it's a particularly crazy time now with what people can do with internet, and also, like I said, the AI. 3 years ago, I had a call from my son Sean, my older guy. And he was in a panic. He's like, "You all right?" I said, "I'm fine. Why? What's going on?" He goes, "I just got a call from these guys. They said," because he knows I go to Newark for boxing every once in a while. He said, "These guys called. They said you hit my father or my brother with the car, and we got your father, and you got to come down here for $400." And the whole thing.
Wow.
And I said to Sean, I said, "No, I'm fine, buddy." But it's scared the living Jesus out of me.
Oh yeah.
And, I have friends in Newark PD, and they say it happens all the time. Right. And what they're using burner phones, so you can't trace it. They're looking for somebody to Venmo money right away to them.
Yeah.
So, and here's the other bad thing, Tom. Now with AI, they could take this show, record your voice, my voice. They could have you sound just like you, calling your son and saying, "Hey, I'm in a jam," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really getting sticky. Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's touch on that subject. AI, artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of people that
I have NI. No
intelligence. All right, so a lot of people believe, and I do as well, that it's a scary road we're going down with it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Again, that's one of those things that's double-edged. From the good news is I hear in medicine, like it's pretty much foolproof diagnosis they can, and artificial intelligence can do. So it may help doctors, especially in the ER when they're doing rounds and all kinds of stuff like that. Flip side of it is like what I just spoke about,
or even to the point where like the artificial machines are made so that they can't be destroyed. So they protect themselves and they get more and more intelligent as time goes on. You get to the point you can't stop them, right? That's the theory.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's got more than one guest that speak to that.
Right.
Yeah. And again, if it happens, it happens. I mean, but yeah, they really need to take a look at that and say, what can we do to prevent that from happening?
Well, and I think myself, that's based on the people that we have running our countries. They're not paying attention. They worry about getting reelected and making money.
Yeah.
Right. They're not looking at this. I don't worry about that. That's down the road. Yeah. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. I don't know. And this is just not the current president, but I can't really think of any of the past, say 4 or 5 presidents that could really sit down and tell you what the dangers of AI and how to prevent it and all that. You just hope that somebody somewhere is working on it.
Yeah.
But it is, but again.
Yeah. I mean,
listen,
I'm not typically a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at this kind of stuff, or you look at you probably know this. I think we touched on this before. I saw a video recently. People are like, "Yeah, Tom, you just heard about this?" They're talking about how the World Health Organization, some leaders around the world got together. So listen, we need to thin out our population. Yeah. We need to get it down to 800 million people, and you need to do it by 2030.
Well, Kamala Harris, either had a Freudian slip or slipped. And just yesterday, or
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
said, yeah, well, part of the plan is reducing the population. Like,
Yeah.
what? What'd you say?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and when you think about like the pandemic and now you're
Yeah,
thinking
man.
the
AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm in the woods all weekend. I'm searching out my future home. They're
God,
gonna find me under a rock.
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's I mean, with all that, listen, you are as well, very positive. I think there's so many great things going on in our country, so many great things around the world, but there's other stuff you go, we got to be paying attention here, right?
You know, but so I agree, but it's always been that way. It's always been that way.
Yeah, you think so?
So, oh yeah, absolutely. So go on YouTube and just search like news broadcasts of 19, pick a year, 68, 75. Right. It's the same thing, just different characters. The plot's the same, but they got different characters.
Really?
Oh yeah. Just Google and any random day, and you'll see that the news, either about the economy or hostages in Iran, or it's all the same.
Right.
It
That's
just
true.
sucks. It sucks when you're in the middle of it.
And I guess our news broadcasting has gotten better. So more worldwide stuff, more immediate.
Yeah, well, it's instant for sure, and it's also now it's big business. So I don't think there's newscasters. I think they're actors and actresses.
Well, yeah, and Joe Rogan. You told Joe Rogan he had an interesting video where they put together, like 50 all newscasters saying the same thing,
like
at the
robots.
Same time. Yeah,
like robots. Yeah. So somebody's controlling the dials on what we're being told for sure,
right.
And it's our job to just kind of weed through the nonsense, and it's
Just
difficult because you don't know what to believe after a while.
Well, that is thing. You got to do your own homework, right?
Yeah.
That's why, I think YouTube is excellent for that. If there's a news story, if there's video of it actually happening, go watch that, see for yourself what's going on.
Yeah, there's things that the eye can't deny. I mean, if you see it happening, that's what's cool about it. And but then there's a lot of again, I'm not gonna say it's particular to this current administration, but it's across the board and again, if you look back for decades, that they're not exactly upfront and honest with us about a lot of stuff.
But going back to Walter Cronkite, wasn't he honest? I guess we got to look back and say, well, geez, he had his.
I mean, certainly was different than it is today. Now it's pretty clear that there's two camps. There's the Fox News camp, and then there's the rest of them.
Right.
And it's clear to see, we were saying last week, I could turn on Fox at any given point in the day, and they're going to be talking about Hunter Biden. I could turn on MSNBC, CNN at any point in the day, or CBS, and they're going to be talking about Donald Trump and some kind of indictment.
All right. And let's get down to the bottom here. Let's get down to the brass facts. All right. Cocaine in the White House. They're saying they've got no proof of anybody. There's cameras all over the place.
No, but they were off for a moment there.
As soon as Hunter Biden walked in, they turned the cameras off.
They turned them on. Again, so this is part of it. This is like what I'm saying. You got to suspend disbelief. Of course, it's hunters or somebody. If it's not hunters, it's somebody that doesn't has easy access, and there's very few people that do have that level of access.
So you're supposed to have the most secure. That's supposed to be the most secure building in the world,
right?
Exactly. Right, and somebody brings cocaine in there, and they don't know where it came from.
First of all, you got to have a really bad problem.
Oh God!
If you can't do a White House tour for 15 minutes without bringing a gram of coke with you, where do you go?
So let's make the assumption. It's not necessarily a wild assumption. It was Hunter Biden's. Okay.
Listen.
So now he has so either he's stupid, which he could be, or he has so little respect for the White House or his father being president, or whatever, that I'm just going to bring cocaine.
Or his habit is so bad he can't help himself. I think that's what it is. I think because there was a video like a day or so after that. And again, this is all conjecture. I pray he's sober, but the indication is he came out on the deck and there were some video going, and he looked like he was really squirmy. Like he was really, he was tweaking out. But again, hey, maybe he just got out of I don't know. I don't want to cast aspersions. But you'd have to say, listen, I'm no Clouseau, but you look at his history, you documented history, and they find cocaine, and you go, there's a good chance it might be his.
Yeah, no kidding. And the thing is, but we can't tell who it is. There's cameras everywhere, right?
Well, just like Jeffrey Epstein. So here's a business, Tom. We should start with cameras that work.
Yeah.
We sell them to the federal government.
They go off at a certain inappropriate times. Yeah.
You can program like when you're going to do something nefarious, they shut down for some reason.
God. And then you know what? It's all going to be swept under the rug. You and I are talking about it, but you look in the newspaper, nobody else is talking about it.
No, it's a dead story, right? But it's the age old story. It's like, did you eat chocolate? And the kid's got chocolate all over his face.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't me.
I know. Yeah, and what they do is too. Their big thing is something like that happens. They always come up with some other scandal, right, to get off the attention.
So what they'll do. Anytime they have bad news, they'll release it on a Friday night.
Yes.
Because people are leaving from down the shore and doing their thing, and they don't even notice it.
Yeah. They print it on Friday. Nobody will read it.
Yeah.
Everybody gets up on Monday.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh gosh.
It's crazy.
Okay. So the past Wednesday, did you ever meet Kent Hitchcock? You ever dealt with him?
Did not. No.
Right. So we did a podcast, a Full Change podcast with him. Very interesting. Because I've been very critical of him publicly, and I told him, I said, listen, Hitch. I got to be very honest. Like I put you in the same category as Mike Babcock, Mike Keenan, those kind of guys. He said, I told him, I said, I did listen to a radio interview the other day. He said his job was to create chaos on the bench, and he went into explaining about it. It was pretty interesting how if the team was flat, he would go pick on somebody. He'd try to pick on somebody he knew could handle it. And the leadership group knew what was going on. Like he would tap one of the captains in the shoulder, and then he'd stir the pot. Like he'd yell, like Brian Burrard was a client of mine, and he got
careful.
Oh, Burrard gave it to him. He called him a fat effing. But I guess Hitch is just used to it. He knew that was going to happen. And,
there's a couple of things. I mean, first off, I watched, and it was a couple 3 years ago, a video he did about 45 minutes, and he just dealt with dealing with the millennial player.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. And I really came away with a different opinion because I went in thinking he's like Babcock, he's like those guys. Old school. Yep. But I think to that last story you're telling me, that's pretty smart because what you're doing then is everybody's like, so if they're getting on me, then you're looking at your game going, oh shit. And then you're also trying to make it so maybe my next shift's a little better. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? It makes the guys kind of cohesive because they're all against him.
He get fired up. I talked to Brian after the game that night. He was hot.
Yeah.
But it was just, that was what it's got. He was very good too at saying, like I asked him, would you ever do anything different? He said, he says, I didn't show the players how much I appreciated their efforts. He says, I was so focused on trying to squeeze everything last out of them to win that I didn't take a step back. And it was pretty cool the way he said that. And he even talked about Babcock. Him and Babcock are good friends. And obviously Babcock's back in the league now with Columbus. And he said he's learned a lot. Excellent coach, great. They're friends. They've coached a lot too. But he was good saying that, listen, okay, practice is my time. He says, I'm running practice. Yeah. The locker room is the players' locker room. He said that in all the years he coached, he maybe went in the locker room after a game like 10 times. That, that was the player. So it was really good about saying that, like, again, it's like you, I had this perception that he was this tyrant, egomaniac guy. But it was like he was he's a very intelligent man about, here's what I'm doing.
So, one of the interesting things he said that thing on coaching the millennial player is, you can't get on guys anymore. So what you have to say to them is, like for a D-man, if I see you're struggling a little bit, you're having a rough night, I go over to you and say, hey, Tommy, great outlet pass. I'm going to need you to do that again in the third period. Right. And he said that if a player has 3 games bad in a row, it's not the player.
Right.
It's the coach.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did talk about how with the player, like now it's like explaining to him why we are doing what we're doing. Correct. Because like back when I played, nobody explained anything. It's just you're doing it. Yeah, you do it, and that's it, right?
No, it's true, and it's the same thing. In some respects, teaching anything, like when I coach boxing or stuff like that, I can show you what to do, but I got to explain to you why you want to do that when you want to do that.
Right.
So then you buy into it, and you're gonna get better at it.
Right. So what does that mean that we were more stupid back then? Because we didn't question anything.
We still are.
Yeah,
nothing's changed.
I know, right? Because I told Hitch this too. I mean, I've told the story many times. Herb Brooks would come down the end of the bench late in the game, and we're down, we're up a goal, trying to kill a penalty, and he would never ask me how I was doing. Like he didn't care whether I was at 75% or 60%. And I think more importantly, he knew that that's the way I wanted to be treated. Right. Like I wanted him to put me on the ice, no matter what shape I was in, if I was hurt, tired, whatever. Like that motivated me. Like he would come down, he'd literally kick me in the ass, and he said, "Like get the F out there." I get so fired up, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, as a coach, you have to read everybody's personality and kind of figure out what's going to get them going.
Yeah.
And what's going to get them not going. Like,
right.
You don't want all the guys to be like, F this guy.
Yeah. Totally.
What does he know?
Yeah.
especially a guy like Hitchcock who didn't play. So for a coach that didn't play,
Right.
there's always that. Like, at some point you're gonna go, why don't you shut up? Where'd you play? Oh, you didn't.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with that too.
Yeah, and that was thrown back at Hitchcock a lot. Like he
Yeah.
had to be pretty thick-skinned to be able to handle it.
But
'cause,
Scotty Bowman didn't play. And he had pretty
Yeah,
good career.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting too how coaches like sometimes they get built up so much, like Scotty. And I don't mean to criticize Scotty at all. Obviously, many Stanley Cups, but there's other people that played with Scotty at different locations, and
St. Louis and stuff.
yeah, Buffalo didn't go well, and
Yeah,
people tell stories about Scotty and some of his actions when he like in places like Buffalo, and like almost like laughing at him, right? So,
I mean, anybody could have stood. I shouldn't say anybody, but any coach, any qualified coach could have stood on that bench
in Montreal,
with, 11 Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
out of your first 15 guys.
I know.
So,
I mean, I used to watch. I look back at the defense from Montreal, all left-handed, shots. Larry Robinson, Serge Savard,
Chartrand was around, but he was later on too.
Yes, and he was like the 6th or 7th defenseman there, and he was a good player. He was a good NHL player. Yeah.
But in that team, he was the 7th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shows how deep they were, and then up front, forget it. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I remember the first time you go into a place like the Montreal Forum, and the banners are up there, and Larry Robinson's still playing, Bob Gainey, Guy Lafleur. I mean, those are one of those moments. And when you're sitting on the bench, and Montreal was like this, and Toronto was like this, there's no separation between you and the fans on the event. So you're basically sitting in the stands, like there's no glass or wwhatever. And they'd always, especially Montreal, they'd always put like a beautiful woman, with the perfume. Oh God,
that didn't work with you though.
Oh God, no. 22-year-old sitting in Montreal with a beautiful playing in the National Hockey League. You're watching Guy Lafleur fly around, and you get some beautiful woman sitting right beside you.
I'm sure you saw the picture of Zook when he was playing down in Dallas. There's this Instagram model, I forget her name, she's Canadian, and she's sitting right behind him. And I forget who was on the bench with him, the coach, and you could see him like with his neck trying to hold up, like control his head from looking at him. But those old Montreal teams and stuff like that.
Oh man,
my favorite, and I'm sure you'll remember this. My favorite night of the year, all the time, I would go over to my friend Pete's. His mother was from Montreal, a little French Canadian woman. And she was a rabid Canadiens fan. And we'd watch the New Year's Eve game against the Red Army, the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Those were, I don't know if you remember those. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Those were tremendous games to watch.
Well, that 72 series, I was in high school at the time? I think it was.
Yeah.
And I remember school, they'd stop school. We went down to the gymnasium and had the big TV set. I'll never forget that big stand. It seemed like it was like 20 feet high. These TVs probably wasn't, but it was high. It was everything. The whole country just shut down so we could watch these games. Yeah.
And Bobby Clark had enough of Karmelov and just.
Yeah, but that wasn't the 72 series. That was the game.
Yeah.
That was the game in Philly, correct?
No. The Philly game was Ed Van Impe.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yes.
No, it was a game in the Summit Series.
Yeah, you're right.
I think he broke Karmelov's ankle or something.
Yeah.
The two-hander.
I'll never forget. So for me, years later, I played with Phil Esposito, but he got up and lectured the country there. Remember
Vancouver, right? Was it Vancouver?
Yes, nice call.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Because again, it was supposed to be this an 8-game series. There was no winner because they just assumed Canada was going to win no matter what.
So what happened there was a short camp.
Yep.
And guys used to go to get in shape. And the Soviet Union, they play 13 months a year, so they don't stop.
Yeah.
So those guys came over in Stanley Cup conditioning.
Yep.
And the guy showed up have a few beers and skate. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Like training camp back then was it was a party. Yeah. You got skate twice a day.
What that shows though is it a system or is it heart? And heart always overrides the system.
Yeah. Right? Well, the pride, your heart, pride. Yeah. Oh man, because it was so, and people don't remember. So it was an 8-game series. Canada played Russia in 1972, and like Mark said, the Canadians were just showing up. And when they showed up for training camp back then, this is the way it was. You were out of shape because you relaxed all summer long. Really, the theory was you're resting your body. Yeah. You come in, have a longer training camp, 2 days, lots of games, work yourself into shape. But now these guys are walking into this series against Russia. Like Mark said, they're in fantastic shape. So what started off to be was supposed to be just a casual series. All of a sudden, Russia, I think when they left Canada, they played 4 games in Canada. Mm-hmm. And then we go over Russia. When they left Canada, were they down like 2? Was it 2-1-1 or something? Wasn't there a
something like that? Yeah. We're not playing well at all.
Right. So you go over Russia and all these things that Alan Eagleson, who was running the Players Association, they had to go get him out of the stands because he was getting threatened by the Russians and everything. Phil Esposito, they had roses they gave the players. So the announcements before the game, Phil stepped on a rose, fell on his rear end.
Took a dig at.
Oh God, it was the things that happened.
Yeah.
Paul Henderson, who was a good player with Toronto Maple
Right.
Leafs, he ends up being a superstar. You
Yeah.
know, got 3
Yeah.
game-winning goals or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
And
he
it
made
was-
a career out of that series.
Oh yeah, that was and like I said in Canada, it was everything. Like if you don't remember where you were when that was going on, there's something
Oh,
wrong
of
with you.
course. Yeah. It's like being an American and not knowing where you were in 1980.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you remember the World Junior game championships where Theo Fleury was playing, and it was just an absolute.
Canada, U.S., right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Canada, Russia.
Oh,
Soviet
okay,
Union.
yeah.
And something started with Theo, and then it just exploded. It
Yeah.
was like, I think the trainers were on the ice fighting. It was great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Man.
But
Like,
the-
that World Junior tournament, World Junior tournament to Canadians is a huge thing.
man.
Yeah.
It's bigger down here, but it's not the same level. But
Yeah. Getting better.
But-
well, all right. So what do we got going on? Who else? Football's getting started soon, right?
yeah, I think they start August, or no, probably end of July, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometime.
I guess it's a big thing now. Aaron Rodgers wasn't too happy. They selected the Jets as the Hard Knocks. The HBO does that
Yes.
series, Hard
Yeah.
Knocks.
Yeah.
I think have some fun with it. I mean, guy.
You're at the end of your career, man.
Yeah. I admire him. I tell you, all the stories right now, they say he's in fantastic shape. He's having all these
Yeah,
meetings.
good for him.
For all the
I
players,
mean,
yeah.
I hope so, because being a diehard Jet fan, it's been
Yeah.
since Joe Namath.
So either they are going to win this or the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
or Rodgers will get hurt and it'll be a disastrous season. What do you think?
Well, he's got 2 years. You figure he's got to do something in 2 years
Right,
because he's older. And I mean, at the very worst, this year they're like 500. At the very best, they make the playoffs. Maybe don't go that deep, but then next year they can make a deeper run. So that's my hope.
Yeah, definitely.
But I gotta deal with
And then the
that.
Giants have to get Saquon Barkley done by.
I'm
Giants have
prepared
to get
the
back.
worst.
Okay. The Giants need to get Saquon Barkley signed by
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Right. Or then what happens if they don't? Does he go to the franchise tag? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I'm not
Right.
sure about that, but yeah, and I think obviously we need that guy.
Yeah. But
And
again,
then-
apparently there's not much of a market, right? There's no place for him to go. He hasn't got hardly any leverage. I heard today they were offering like $13 million a year for 2 years.
So you wonder if there's kind of some
It's collusion.
Get
Yeah.
together, collusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just they determined that the running back position isn't. I mean, quarterbacks are making $40 million a year now. So,
I mean, you run the ball maybe 2 out of 6 plays.
yeah, the argument I guess with him too is that he catches the ball a lot. He does a lot more than just being a runner. But yeah, market is, and it is kind of when you say only $13 million a year, it's not like
I know.
Right.
We're gonna have a rent party for him.
yeah. I'm kidding.
So how about the Japanese Otemi? Is that how you say his name?
Ohadi or whatever. Yeah,
Whatever. Now, I mean, like, can you imagine him playing here? The Yankees, there's some rumor maybe they might be trying to snag him.
Yeah. Well, the rumor is supposedly he does not want to play on the East Coast.
Really?
But
I don't know
yeah,
why.
I don't know. Like I guess
The weather?
maybe more of an Asian population. Like he wants to be on the West Coast.
He'd be so. Yankee Stadium? Are you kidding me?
I know.
That's crazy.
I guess the theory is he's making so much money he doesn't really care about the marketing dollars.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, he's a freak. I mean, the guy's a freak
Yeah.
of nature.
so he's a pitcher, but he's also like this great hitter too, right?
Yeah, he's whacking home runs, throwing shutouts. He just does it all. Yeah.
Wow.
I think
It's
he
kind of like
drives
you,
the bus everywhere.
when you were playing high school.
Yeah, but he can't hit the knuckleball. And I was really good at that.
Were you a good baseball player?
So I was all right. I mean, I had a really good arm.
Oh.
And then they started me off at pitcher, like when I was around 9. I took out a Volkswagen windshield, so they put me at right field, and so it was pretty ugly. But
Nice.
yeah. No, I enjoyed baseball. It was a fun game.
Very cool. Lacrosse for me. I was actually a better lacrosse player than I was a hockey player, but there's nowhere to go with that.
We didn't have it here. When I grew up, there was just baseball, basketball, football.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
it.
All right, so we solved a lot of issues. We know that the corruption going on around the world.
Yeah, I think you and I got to do something on that.
So we got 7 years to reduce our population to 800 million worldwide, right? That's the strategy.
There's some people I know we could start with.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, maybe Ira Matthew here that follows our show. Danny Erickson some days too, and he gets on my case.
It gets on your craw.
Oh yeah, but you know what he is? He's like that fickle guy. Like sometimes he's my buddy,
Yeah.
and other times then he's picking on me and everything. Oh God. Okay. Well, that show went fast. 35 minutes. Remember?
Yeah.
All right, brother. Anything else?
Covered a lot of ground, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just a little update. August 19th again is the swim across the Hudson.
Yes.
Bill Brown, our retired Navy SEAL buddy,
Mhm.
putting that together. Mark plays a huge role in that. again, so do we know the time that they're starting to swim?
Yeah, I believe this year it's gonna be very early. They're gonna get wet like at 7:30 a.m.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So again, if you guys get a chance over at Liberty State Park over in New Jersey, New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
If you get
Towers.
Fallen Towers.
Yeah.
If you want to get to a fantastic event, if you're in that area, go by there. You'll have 150 or 200 former retired Navy SEALs and other people that'll be getting ready, and it's just such an emotional, patriotic event. And then once they get to Lower Manhattan, again, that's a fantastic event as well. So if you want to be a part of it, we'll keep promoting that again, August 19th. And the foundation is the Navy SEAL.
If anybody's interested in attending or making a donation, go to the Navy SEAL Foundation website, and you'll find the swim really easy.
Right.
Yeah,
and again, we all understand that this is an estimate that there's about 22 veterans every day that are taking their lives. So it's partly for that to help out other veterans. It isn't just for Navy SEALs, but primarily that's where it goes.
Yeah, for the SEAL community, it's also every year a memorialization of Extortion 17, where there were an unfortunate circumstance where a bunch of SEALs lost their life in one day. So yeah, it's an epic event. Navy SEAL Foundation, go to their website if you're interested, like I said, in going or making a donation. We have Bill asked me to give him a hand. Saturday is our last test swim down in Long Branch, New Jersey, for non-SEALs that want to try and do the swim test to see if they can swim. Yeah.
Good deal. And again, please follow us with the Full Change podcast on all the podcast platforms. Please like, share, listen, make a comment, particularly on Apple for us. It helps us more, but you can listen to it any way you want. So, all right, brother, fantastic show. The world is a better place. The universes are a better place now because of us.
Well, and the deer are safe too.
The deer are safe. They're herded in the right direction by the great deer herder, Mark. All right, brother. See you next week.
All right, guys. Have a good one.